Hi everyone. Bear with me on this. This is our story. I've been mulling over whether I should share this with you since MA World Conference. You obviously know how impactful these conferences can be, and they always are, but this year was different. A little background, my name is Valerie St, and I'm from a tiny hick town in Down East Maine called Machias. My better half, Jared Wright, is a divorced dad of 3. He's a general contractor who had busted his knee badly in a dirt bike accident. Jared was introduced to OPC3 by one of his clients, and it wasn't long before Jared was sponsored by David and Gloria Hitchens and Pam and Jim Lee's organization. I was a single mom of 4 boys living in low-income housing. I had just gone through a nasty divorce and traveled 2 hours each way for 16 months to get myself through cosmetology school. It's a pretty low point in my life, and I can actually remember sitting on my lawn chair on my 20 by 20 patch of grass watching my boys ramp bikes in the parking lots of the projects. I'm not an easily influenced person, and as a matter of fact, I can be quite oppositional by nature, and if I don't trust someone, and unfortunately I'm a cynic, so that takes me a while to get to know people. I was the supportive, not so supportive spouse. I did go to trainings and corings weekly. Why, when I was being so negative? Because I couldn't have been any more negative. My life couldn't have been any more bleak. While I sat on that patch of grass and watched those rambunctious boys, I was reading The Strangest Secret. If I had nothing else, I had my attitude, and I could control that. I didn't go to the first Northeast Regional Convention, but Gloria Hitchens had convinced me that we couldn't miss World Conference in Miami. We had no money, so she offered to front the hotel room and the tickets, and we could stay with them, and then I could repay her when my income tax came. Sounded like a deal to me. The day before we left, Gloria's adult son died. We had bought the airfare, so no turning back. We flew out of Boston in February because it was so much cheaper. It was a 6-hour drive, and we couldn't afford a hotel room, and we slept in the car. We kept turning the heat on to heat it up when it was too cold. We finally made it to Miami, and we thought the hotel room was prepaid, but upon check-in, we found out we were wrong. The hotel let us pay cash that first night and said we could pay the rest the next day. The bank account balance was $3.74. That sucks. We had $50 to our name. We didn't know a single person. I had my fingers crossed that my income tax would come. The next morning, I checked my bank account. Balance is $2.74. That sucks. They charged me $1 to check my balance. We got coffee for breakfast. First day of the conference honestly was a bit much for me. Who the hell are all these crazy people dancing around at 9 a.m.? I only recall the hype. Not digging it too much. Sorry, I didn't get it. It was too good to be true. And that night, the group went to dinner at Bubba Gump's, and I only remember being panicked because we couldn't afford to go. Later that night, we managed to escape by the hotel front desk, and they hadn't locked our room. Score. The next morning, checked the bank account balance. Tax return came. I walked over to Jared and whispered, "We're buying 3 tickets." There was a team pizza party that night. We went and sat in the back. Who were all these people? They were all talkers. They were telling all these stories. I nudged Jared and said, "Introduce us and tell our story." Let's just say he's a bit more reserved than I am. When Jim Lee asked if anyone had anything to say, I didn't think Jared was going to raise his hand, so I raised it for him, and then we went up. He started to tell our story, and I couldn't take it. I had to butt in. I'm slightly more high energy and a bit more of a control freak. The tidbit I took from conference, if the world was economically connected, we wouldn't shoot our paycheck. And I did know for a fact that the power of positive thinking worked. We went home, and 3 weeks later, our sponsor, Gloria Hitchens, the one whose son had died right before conference, well, her daughter died too. Both had been in their 40s, hereditary heart problems, awful, awful stuff. However, we became exceptionally close with them. My mom had passed, and Gloria and I had become more than business partners. They were a family, and I don't use the term lightly. She became my mom. Jared and I did well within the organization. The team had somehow been around for years, and there were those that did 50 BV a month, and Jared and I reached master coordinator fairly quickly. He was the master at coordinating, and I was master at talking. Year 2 at Miami conference, we decided if we were going to Miami, we should stay a couple of extra days. We spent the extra 2 days in South Beach, a different world for us. We window shopped. Someday Jared was going to come back and buy that $200 shirt and the $200 jeans. We had gone to another shop we thought was a costume shop. It was a woman who had handmade wedding gowns, corsets out of silk, and photos of Arabian sheiks and his princess brides on the wall. Jared said, "Someday, baby, we're going to come back and buy you a wedding dress." Some far-fetched goals in the back of our brain, window shopping and daydreaming. I really didn't use the products much. Jared and I didn't live together at the time. I was booth running at a salon, and Jared was always trying to get me to go to a motives training. I was not so receptive. I did like the Fix Argan Oil shampoo, and I could use that on some of my clients. I finally agreed to go to a motives training as long as Jared went with me. I don't remember what was said at that training. It was so long ago, but I remember it was confusing as hell. And however, on the way home, all of the locals, courings, conferences, it all clicked. It wasn't about any of the products. It was about all of the products. I could open my own salon and turn my consumable liabilities into an asset. This was before we even acquired Shop.com. My product was the plan. Let's fast forward. I was moving out of the projects into an apartment above the new salon. Thank you, Jared, for turning that building from the 1800s into the most gorgeous spa salon in the state of Maine. I pulled down a sketch from my kitchen wall that was with my dream board. It still gives me chills. It was a sketch of the salon I had done during a coring exercise. I hadn't even looked at it much. It was just on my kitchen wall as I walked out every day. My written goals and my vision board needed an update because my dreams of having my own salon was a reality. We were a BV machine. It was beautiful, everything we had hoped for. I was so busy making a ton of money on my scale in a town where haircuts are $16. The first year of owning my salon, I was so close to a six-figure income. Our MA business trips were turned into vacations where we would bring our boys and they would work for Dale at MA Gear, and we would stay extra days on South Beach. At World Conference, we would bring 3 of our boys, rent a loft on South Beach and stay 3 weeks. The boys would do whatever the hell they wanted. We did business showings with a partner we had from Miami, people in and out every day. And Jared did buy that fancy shirt and jeans, and I ordered my 1930s princess corset tea-stained silk wedding dress. Another visualization, a reality. Financially, the salon was awesome. Everything everyone else wanted. That's when I realized that with the salon, I was paying for things with hours of my life. Even though I was making great money, the salon required so much of my time that it made me very bitter and angry. Everyone else was more important than my family, and I hated it. The last thing I wanted to do was talk about the business or spend more time doing makeovers. If I just had more time, I could focus on MA and I would sponsor more people. I don't speak unless I am passionate, and I know I'm right. People listen for whatever reason, and I learned it was a strength, and I knew I could build a strong organization if I just had the time. So I sold the salon. The only way I felt I could move forward with this business if I could get the hell out of down East Maine. And David and Gloria Hitchings had relocated to Punta Gorda, Florida, and said I could come stay with them and build relationships and sponsor people and build a team and relocate. I spent August of 2014 there. It was beneficial, but not productive. The NMTSS in Naples was awesome for me. We don't even have UBPs in Maine. We are our team. We have to travel at least 5 hours for a local UBP. And we had learned so much from all the trainings we had been to, but it was so different from what our sponsors and Pam and Jim Lee had told us to do. They were manipulating us in different ways. MA World Conference 2015, we brought 2 of our sons. One was now an MA partner. The older one wanted to come to Miami too, and I told him he could, but he'd have to attend the conference, and that's what he did. This is the event that JR introduced the shopping annuity concept, and he got it right away. Hell, we had had it a long time ago. That's why we opened our salon, turned our liabilities into assets. I sat there with my head down, slapping my forehead in the nosebleed seats, shaking my head. That is what it's called, the shopping annuity. We never had words for it before. It's a simple math problem. A plus B equals C, always. It doesn't matter if you take the long way around. If you do this and that, the basic 5 and the getting started guide, it equals residual income. I knew I hadn't been doing the result producing activities. I was irritated with myself. I always thought if I only had the words to approach people, well, now I do. My son was like a JR parrot. Can't have a minimum mindset, Mom. JR's words he used at conference. I spent the rest of February in Punta Gorda with David and Gloria and driving to Naples and spending time with Pam and Jim Lee. I found on YouTube where Carl Eklund was showing and intertwining the shopping annuity into the flip chart, but Pam and Jim had made their own plan and we were supposed to follow that. I went home to Maine for March and came back to Florida for the month of April 2015. I was so excited about the shopping annuity concept, but Jim and David had their own way of doing things and wanted me to do it their way, but it was wrong in so many ways and it ticked me off. Jared came to Florida and got me. I was done. But I wouldn't quit because it's just a math problem. I'm placed in an organization. We use the products, all of them. We get it. So I disconnected from our sponsors. I did bring a few of our new partners to International Convention along with 2 of our sons and a nephew. I drove from Maine. Somehow we got floor seats that last day and the boys loved it. Something was up with Jim, you could tell. By Northeast Regional, we had barely been speaking to our sponsors, David and Gloria, but they had flown back for the event. At that event, we heard about a leader doing another business and trying to take MA people over to that company. I was floored. I went to David and Gloria and was like, oh my God, did you guys hear about this? They didn't say much, but they ended up leaving conference that day. Weird. We later learned that Pam and Jim Lee were involved with the business too, and it devastated me and Jared. I'll never forget the look on Jared's face when he said with tears in his eyes, "This business is our hope. They can't take our hope." Needless to say, we've been through a lot of bad stuff, and words can never fully describe it. But eventually, Tom Holden called us. We had never even heard of him. Then we were in contact with Lauren and so many others. Originally, I wasn't going to go to MA World Conference 2016 because of all we had been through, but Tom had said they were staying in South Beach and invited us to the same hotel, and we went. I was still in the stage of devastation. I was still feeling pretty antisocial and negative, and we had been having conversations with Lauren that changed my perspective for me. It wasn't a company anymore. It was people. People who were also devastated and exhausted by the people who were trying to steal our people. The first night of World Conference 2016, Tom came in our hotel and drank beer and ate pizza. No condescension at all. He was hilarious and down to earth, and I might have lightened up a bit. The next day, he and Lauren placed our little Down East Dream Team in the front row, people they had never met, but valued. The next night, Tom had a dinner at the hotel for everyone. I was still shy and reserved, and it was late, but Brandy stopped by our table with Tom. Dear Lord, it was 11 p.m., and she was standing beside our table, fidgeting, full of energy, and so super friendly and happy with anyone. I think the only thing I asked is, "Are you always like this?" And she said yes. And that's the moment I remembered who I used to be. Even speaking about it is hard. We were so transfixed on every word at the conference, sitting in the front row. The last day when JR was speaking, I don't even know how long it was, and it didn't matter. I had been hanging on every word the entire conference. Every speaker created empathy. I felt it. I knew it. By the end, when the skit came down with JR and Andrew by the ocean, I knew it before it started. I was drowning. How many of us are? He held him under the water, and I was visualizing my dream board back home with the tiny block letters in the middle. I could never put a monetary value on my goals. I could only feel it. It said, "Breathe." When the conference ended, I could barely stand. I was sobbing uncontrollably. I had just been validated. Everything I knew was right. When something is right, it's always right. Yes, we've been in the business for 6 years, but we didn't start our business until February 2016. Only now when we speak, we know what we're talking about because we've been through it all. And I have a visualization about that wedding dress that we bought in Miami and our wedding. I'm not sure of the details, but it's going to be an MA wedding. It'll be with family. I also have a visualization of our goal statement. I get almost frightened to read it because the visualization was becoming reality. We decided to rename our team. We're no longer Jim's Down East Dream Team. We are Team Transcend because we are transcending the negativity. We are one of the starfish in JR's story about the boy tossing them back in the ocean. Thank you, JR and Lauren. You put the hope in our own hands. And you never know the power of words.